Well, welcome to another special edition of Newsmakers as we're looking at Missouri Southern and how the transition has gone through online learning and campus operations off of campus. Today, we're looking at the Advising, Counseling, and Testing Service. Joining me, Faustina Abrahams and Heather Bullock. Thank you both for being here today. And
Thank you for having us.
Your departments are very involved with students year-round, and a lot of people, Faustina, are probably interested in how has this transition gone, because you are used to having students come by the office and visit with you, and suddenly you can't do that.
Yeah. I think I would say, surprisingly, it's gone well than we thought it would be. It's challenging, but I think in time we have transitioned well enough that we are still able to serve students. It may not be by the means by which we would prefer to do it or by the means by which they would prefer to interact with us, but so far, so good.
Great. Now, Heather, you're in the same situation on the counseling side. You've had students, they come visit the offices. You now have to use different technology to be able to reach the students.
That's true. We do. We've are offering telemental health services to the students now, which was a very interesting process to get going because our services to the students are free. And so we wanted to make sure the service that we were offering to them was also free. So it took us a little bit of time to find a HIPAA compliant service that was also free. So we didn't have to charge the students for a service that was free. That didn't really make a lot of sense to us.
Okay. Well, Faustina, let's talk about your department for people who aren't familiar. Just a brief background. We say ACTS, A-C-T-S, Advising, Counseling, and Testing. So you have three main areas. Explain briefly what's involved there.
Okay, so for advising, we primarily serve undeclared students, Bachelor of General Studies, Bachelor of Applied Science. But then we also secondarily support all students who need advising, whether the advisors are not available, but also especially between semesters when faculty are gone and most advisors are gone. We are the one professional department that's available to enroll students, to provide input or guidance to, for the classes they have to take or the career directions that they are looking forward to. So we supplement their primary advisors with that. We also have support students through the Learn and Learn referrals by supporting faculty who submit referrals on students for different reasons, and then we reach out to students and help them. So that's the advising side. The counseling side is where Heather is the lead mental health counseling, offering free mental health counseling to students. It's confidential. And they come to office and they receive the service. And I think Heather said rightly that it is free, and we have tried to make sure that it's still free for students now. And then testing, we provide community testing for ACT, HiSET, and other regional and national tests that students need. But in addition to that, we also provide test proctoring for online classes that MSSU offers. So that's quite a lot that we do.
Right, so you have a lot of contact with the students. And
Yes.
Heather, you mentioned that the process of going online with counseling. First, let's backtrack. First step is, Faustina mentioned referrals. The students have to come to you in the first place. So how do students make contact with the counseling services?
They right now are having to do that through email. Previously, they could stop by the office, of course, or if a professor, let them know where we were located, they could come by the office that way as well, or call us. But now they have to come through our email through counseling services at mssu.edu. It's usually how we find out about them.
Now, she also mentioned the Lion Alert or the faculty involvement. Tell us a little bit for the community, they might be interested. It's not just always the student coming in, that there's a communication on campus.
Absolutely, yeah. So any faculty member or staff member who might be concerned about a student can use Lion Alert to let us know that they have that concern, and then counseling would then go ahead and reach out and let the student know that services are available. And we have people here that are willing, to listen.
And that is something that is operational year-round. I mean, even when we're not a closed campus, have you seen an increase in that since the campus has shifted to online?
Yes, we definitely have seen an increase.
And then we also have, even community members can submit referrals on a student that they know. Maybe they live with a student, maybe a sister, a brother, a spouse, a parent. They have concerns. We have a portal through our website that they can submit a referral. And students can refer themselves or refer other students. So we've had students who would just use that as a means to open the door for somebody to reach out to them, or students who are concerned about a roommate or another classmate, and they will refer a student to us as well.
And those referrals, Faustina, go beyond just the counseling, the mental health. There's academic referrals. They may be contacting your office where you find resources for them.
Yes, we have, I think the large majority of our referrals are academic in nature. And some of them are also behavioral as well. But faculty, they can submit referrals on students who are not doing well and try to get us to connect them with maybe tutoring or getting some additional support for them, or maybe test taking skills or time, stress management or time management, different approaches to how students actually are able to be successful. And so that's also an avenue, yeah.
Now, Faustina, have you seen any trends since the transition to online as far as faculty referring you to students? Maybe they haven't heard that much from them since their class went online.
And that's quite a lot of it. We are hearing from faculty about students who were doing well when it was traditional, and all of a sudden they're not hearing from them anymore. And so we are getting quite a number of those. Sometimes we'll hear from one or two instructors about one particular student, and in a few days you hear from 2 more instructors about the same student. And oftentimes when you hear one and when you actually reach out to the student, you find out that it's not just for that one class. The struggle spans across other classes as well. So those are welcome referrals.
Right, and you have a staff that follows up on those referrals and tries to make contact with the students and see, basically how they're doing and what's going on.
Yeah, we share those outreach between a lot of departments and committees. If a student is an athlete and it's academic concern, it goes to an athletic support specialist. If a student is in Project Stay, we refer it to Project Stay to reach out. So we try to not be the middleman. We try to connect the student with the resource that they are most used to, or that makes sense for them to reach out to. If it's for children, we send it to Children's Center so that they can do the outreach, so that we cut out the middleman, so to speak.
Right. And those services are still around. And you mentioned tutoring. So if a student feels like they're struggling in a class now, they still have those resources available through Missouri Southern.
Yes, tutoring is now available online. And so they're able to get children online as well.
Great. Now, Heather, on the mental health side, I know we had a calling campaign on campus where they were trying to reach out to the students, and Faustina as well. Did you get a number of referrals from people who said, I just talked to John Doe or Sue Smith on the phone, and try to refer that way?
We did. We got quite a few referrals that way, and when we've gone and done our outreach through that, we've been successful sometimes, and then other times a student might have said, yeah, I would really like to do counseling, but now I'm home with my children and I don't have a quiet place with which to do the counseling, because the telemental health requires they need to be in the location all by themselves to maintain their confidentiality, and they can't do that with kids, afoot, which is then in turn kind of keeping them from participating in some other classes if their classes are meeting at a specific time as well. So that's been difficult, I think, for a lot of students too.
Faustina, do you find that a number of students, because their lives have changed so much, is that time factor perhaps, that they're at home now, or maybe they have to work when they would have had their class, the challenge is their whole schedule has changed so much?
Yeah, and I think it's a challenge, because some students may find themselves in an environment which was not supportive when school was in session, and now they do not have a choice. And so they may be with family or friends or whoever that may not necessarily be the right environment for them, and yet they are stuck. School could have been the way of escape for them, and now they don't have that. Some have lost jobs, and so it is creating a challenge for them. Some rely on friends, and without the friend support, it has become a challenge. And so the transition to online has not been good for a number of our students. And so it's something that they are navigating. So some of the referrals that we are seeing and the COVID-19 outreach calls is is actually unveiling some of those challenges. And we are trying our very best to help students navigate that and connect them with the resources that can do that. But we do know we might not be able to solve it for every student. We are very aware of that.
Now, Heather, explain to us, you talked about the method of mental health. So like we're doing right now, talking through a conference call through the computer, that's the type of thing you would have where they would see the counselor they're talking to on the other side?
Yeah, it's very similar. We're using something called Microsoft Teams as opposed to Zoom, because that was a system that we already had in place and the students readily had access to. So they complete something called a telemental health informed consent to, give permission for us to have that conversation, and we review that with them, and we had verify where they are and have emergency contact information for them every time in case something happens and we would need to send, an ambulance or something to them. We know where they're located, and we would need to send them there. You would think being able to meet in this way would open up more opportunities for students, but in the state of Missouri, we're only allowed to practice in the state of Missouri, so that's kind of limited it for some of our students. So we are also offering consultative services for those students who are out of the state to help them find services in their own state.
So some of our students, the Missouri Southern students, have moved back to their home state. They're not in Missouri, yeah. So you have to work on Plan B for them to provide service.
Correct.
Now, you mentioned community resources as well, going beyond the services that you're offering through the counseling on campus. Do you also work with other community agencies to try to help out some of the students who have concerns as well?
Absolutely. We absolutely do. Ozark Center has always been one of the biggest places that we've gone to, but also not every necessarily place, but a lot of places are also in the same situation that we are as well, where they're not offering in-person sessions either. Mm-hmm. And so a lot of places are offering the telemental health services as well. So for some students, it's better for them to maybe stay with us instead of be referred out at that point.
Good. So Faustina, it sounds like a key to success, I guess, is to follow up with the students when you hear about something, whether it's the mental health or the academic side, is that they are wanting that outreach for the campus.
Yes, and it's been very rewarding. Students that we've connected with, we are yet to hear of anyone who has said, "Why have you called me?" I mean, their responses have been, "Thank you. This is wonderful. You've been great. Nobody is doing this." I reached out to a student last week, and after working with her, I got an email from the student's mother. I mean, with much appreciation, because the student was apprehensive, and we had email conversations back and forth. It seemed like we were talking past each other, but just the phone call made a difference. And I have to give a shout out to our IT team. They've been fabulous, supporting the online resource for us. And so we couldn't have done a lot of what we are doing, serving students this way with other IT support.
So it really has become a campus-wide effort to help serve the students and what we're talking about. One other question, Faustina, you talked about advising. This is the time of year where students enroll for their classes, whether it's summer or fall. So you're working with those students through the communication like we're doing now, and also perhaps giving them the resources of how they can get enrolled. Is that correct?
Yes, so we actually start, this week starts open enrollment. And so we've been working with students. We made an online form available for students to submit courses where if they want to enroll, that they can use that. We are connecting with departments, but we also actually started enrolling a new transfer and freshmen. Admissions team are helping with the call. So we are actually calling students. Every single person who has been admitted is getting a call for freshmen, and then transfer students, we are sending them a link to a form where they can submit their course requests, and then we connect them with the department. So we are very busy calling students and getting them enrolled.
So even though the current semester is, I guess, winding down, we still have that looking forward to the future. Those students need to be in place for whether it's summer or fall classes that they're looking at.
Yes, they need to. Actually, next week we will be embarking on what we have been doing for the last 5 or 6 years. We call that an enroll-a-thon, where we have a set time and people actually call and they have advisors readily available to enroll them. And that's coming up next week as well.
Are you finding any students who are hesitant about enrolling that, well, I'm not sure what's going to happen in the fall, or what kind of reactions are you getting from students?
Yes, we are getting some of those. Some due to finances, some due to where they have to live. If they are living far away or they are not out of state and they are not sure whether it's safe for them to move to Missouri, because if something happens and they have to move back home, the disruption that it creates for them. So some are uncertain about whether they want to enroll or not enroll, or even how many. And some are waiting to see what the climate would look like to determine. And we are also making adjustments as to what we need to do to prepare for the fall as well.
Right. So as the rest of the country, the university is kind of playing it not by ear, but looking to alternative plans, what may happen in the future as far as.
Yes.
Right. Now, Heather, when you're talking to students, without getting into specifics, of course, in society, we hear a lot of concerns about unemployment, the people who are in new situations. What are some of the common themes maybe that a lot of students are dealing with the mental health challenges, what they may be encountering right now?
Mm-hmm. A lot of stress, a lot of anxiety. This is going to be very trauma provoking for a lot of people, kind of not dissimilar to the tornado when that came through in the aftermath from that. But a lot of them are kind of really concerned with finishing school and being able to do that and managing life on top of that. So it's not really too dissimilar from what they were dealing with beforehand. It's just that the rest of the world is dealing with that as well. And so getting them to realize that, school's temporary, it's going to be over here pretty soon. And this pandemic, while it might not seem like it's temporary, it is going to be temporary as well. There will be an end date to that too. So trying to get them to focus on what they have control over.
And you mentioned stress, which is something we hear a lot about in our society as a whole, that, some tips for how to handle that for students or anyone, probably just important things they hadn't considered before.
Right, absolutely.
And tying that together. Well, as you're talking, Faustina, briefly, you mentioned testing, which obviously is not active right now because of the office is being closed. Is that something that there will be alternative plan Bs for people who maybe need to take some of those tests for admission and so forth in the future for programs?
Well, currently there is limited kind of tests because we have one lab in the criminal justice building that is open from 8 to 10. And so as needed, a few instructors have been able to use on limited basis for maybe a test that involves 1 or 2 people as part of it. But it's not as widely used necessarily for that. But as it is, until we open, we are not able to offer any of those regional tests. In fact, the testing companies are not even working to be able to open those tests for us to take. As you know, ACT is not offering it. They've canceled theirs till June. And so even if we wanted to open, testing companies are not available to allow us to do that. And so we just have to wait and see. And then when we come back, even when testing starts, we will have to come up with some alternative format of it, because it will be a social distance is going to be with us for a while. Mm-hmm. And so it will be a challenge opening testing up to full capacity as we had before.
Right. So for everyone, when campus does, quote, open again, it's going to be a different world for working with the students, working with everyone, and so forth. Yes. And Heather, when you're looking forward to being back on campus, I imagine that will also affect the face-to-face interactions with students as well.
Yes, most definitely. It's and we're going to have a new normal.
Tying that together. Well, if someone had any specific questions, where do they go for resources? We're doing this program. It's going to be posted. It's going to be aired. But where do they get more information? How can they find out more about counseling, for instance, Heather? If they say, I want to contact her, or what do I need to do to get those services?
Counseling services at MSSU.edu is our email address, so they can ask any questions there, make appointments through there. And then also on our ACTS webpage, there's a counseling section where we've created some really great information along with some apps that we found to be beneficial during this time to help manage some anxiety and things of that nature. And I would also like them to know we are open for business. And a question we get a lot, or a statement we hear a lot from students is, I've been dealing with this for a while, but I didn't feel like I wanted to take time away from somebody else who might be dealing with something more difficult than what I'm dealing with. And so I want everyone to know that all conversations are welcome and all conversations are valid. And so hopefully, they'll come talk regardless of whether they think it's important or not. We think it's important, and we're there to listen.
Right. You're there. And once again, you mentioned at the beginning, that's confidential. They're talking to
Absolutely.
you on a confidential basis, tying that together. And Faustina, your perspective, for, people need resources, want to know more about maybe the advising. How do I do that? How do I do some of the processes?
Okay. So again, the Ask Advising webpage has information, but also the COVID-19 page. It has modifications, and all student support updates are regularly updated them. In fact, every week, whenever there are changes, we are encouraged to update that site. So URM have been very generous and kind and work with us with those updates. So I think students, when they go to that site, they will find the resources that they need, the contacts, the information that they need. In fact, the resources that Heather mentioned is also actually linked to that same page. In case people were wondering, maybe counseling is closed, even if they go to that COVID-19 page, that link is also there as well.
So there's a number of opportunities to find out that information.
Yes.
Of course, we're talking about, you've mentioned the new students, but retaining the current students, retention, perhaps some of the students that maybe this was their first year of college and they're undeclared on their major. Your office would play a key role in helping them get ready for year number 2, tying that together.
Yes, and we are ready. We are ready. We have the tools. We are ready to engage with them by phone. We are ready to engage with them by email, and we are ready to serve students. We haven't stopped, and we are ready to serve new ones as well.
Okay. And even though the end of the semester is approaching, your office is there when classes finish and finals week is over. Your services are still there for students.
Yes, 8 to 5, and then the summer semester starts 7 to 5. We do not like the 7 part of it, but we all do, because trade-off, we get Fridays off, right?
Right.
There's something to look forward to there. Yes.
Right. And Heather, your service and counseling for the students continue as well. I mean, even this beyond these last couple of weeks of classes.
Yes, we are also open during the summer.
Right. Was there anything else you'd like to leave for the audience as far as tips for success, advice, just a final thought that you'd like to share with them? Heather, I'll leave that with you first.
Oh my, the pressure. I think taking care of yourself, you are important too. You're a priority. So, take that walk if you want to. It's okay to step away from your schoolwork every now and again and take a breath. And contact us if you need us. We're here.
Good. Okay. Faustina, a final thought that you'd like to share with the audience from your perspective?
That you are not alone, that you are more resilient than you have given yourself credit. This is not just a time for survival, it's a time for opportunities to thrive and to know who you are, and you can make it. I mean, you may not have to do it alone, but contact those who can help you, talk, listen, one day at a time. You can make it.
And as you both mentioned, if we've mentioned, Missouri Southern is still there, although not physically on campus. The resources and the people and the services are still there for them.
Yes.
Okay. Well, thank you very much for joining me today and providing information for our audience. I appreciate it.
Thank you, Judy, for having us.
You're
Thank
welcome.
you.